Adam, welcome to the Birchal Podcast. A pleasure to have you with us. You're a bit of a legend around here. You were one of our bigger raises on the platform back in 2022. You raised $1 million for Heaps Good Packaging, an amazing business which came at a really good time, right, in terms of the COVID wave. There's many businesses which benefited heaps from that. And yours certainly was one of them. So for those who are unfamiliar with your business, we're going to go into it in a bit more detail, but some high level, you raised $1 million on the platform. It's all about sustainable packaging for consumer goods. A really cool idea. I'm pretty sure I've had a package of yours arrive at my house.
Hope so.
Which was
at
very
least
cool.
One, I'd hope by now.
Well, maybe two, I think. I think there was a wine bottle wrapped in your beautiful packaging piece. But let's dive into it in a sec. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you. That's a lovely welcome. Appreciate it. Very warm.
Awesome to have you with us, and thanks for the feedback.
So, a bit more than I expected, to be honest. Very grand.
He also walks on water, and it's amazing. So, can't guarantee the word. So, Adam, let's touch on the journey, and that's one thing we're trying to do a better job here on Birchal at the moment, is to actually catch up and tell the stories about what's happened since the race. So Definitely. It's been almost a year and a half, 2 years, something like that.
Apparently it's been 2 years, which I was just told, which is crazy. Time flies.
Yeah, it really does when you've got your head down, and the capital raising which you do, that can really fuel growth. And yes. I think what people sometimes forget is when you do a capital raise, it's the start actually, once you've got the capital, not the end.
And that's something that I guess you realise once it's all done, because it is such a huge high. You raise this money and you feel like you've reached that mountain. It's like, oh no, now the work really starts. So yeah, that's the facts.
It's a wild realization, isn't it, for a lot of people? I know I've capital raised myself, and it's like, okay, well, that's the hard. That felt like a massive effort. Now I've actually got to do the actual work I'm actually here to do.
And you do, and you also, you have people's money, so I guess you feel indebted in that sense that you need to provide them with a return, and that's something that I think I'm consciously aware of when I'm making decisions, because it is the fact, and it could be, mums and dads, and it could be other people that have invested in good faith in your company. So morally, that's something that I do sort of think about a lot.
Yeah. Okay, let's just take a step back. Heaps Good Packaging. Describe for those who maybe never come across you before. Who are you? What do you do?
So we're a sustainable packaging company for e-commerce predominantly. I guess our aim was to take packaging. The most important thing was for it to be sustainable, but we also wanted to change the way the packaging game was sort of marketed and packaging was sold. So packaging inherently is a fairly boring product, and we tried to make it a little bit sexy, and I think that's where we came in. So it's fun. It's not too, we don't take ourselves too seriously, and obviously sustainability is at the core of everything we do.
And what do you mean by trying to change how it's marketed?
Well, look, I guess digital marketing has been a really large acquisition strategy for us, and with that comes a different sort of marketing set and a different voice that you sort of want to portray. And for us, it was not to come out with, really serious sort of copy and serious marketing. So we have a lot of fun, and we also obviously talk about sustainability a lot, but sustainability has also been, there's a lot of gloom and doom around it. So we try not to sort of push that too much. It's very important, but we want people to enjoy the experience on our website and have a good time, and also hopefully grow their business, learn about sustainability, maybe learn some business tips at the same time.
Okay, interesting. So that's kind of where you've gone more broad in terms of your messaging.
Definitely.
Then, right.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. Let's go back to 2022.
Yes.
What was the raise experience like for you?
Look, I would say it was arduous, but in a really good way. I think for us, it was the biggest project that we'd sort of invested in. And I think starting your business is probably initially the largest thing, that you've ever probably put yourself into. But we threw everything into that sort of raise, and from making the video, sort of through that process to then, being on the phones, which is, I guess, an experience that was really interesting. You learn a lot about your business, but a lot of people don't sort of realise that it is a big process. Obviously, the end result is really, really wonderful and totally worth it. But yeah, that's sort of how we found it.
Tell me, at the time, what stage was your business at? Like, what were you doing revenue-wise? And why did you think, we really should do something like this?
So I think that was 2.5. We'd just done $1.5 million in revenue at that point. So yeah, it would have been a pretty,
decent traction. Were you kind of bootstrapping from the start?
We were, and look, like you said, COVID really helped us, and it was very difficult for a lot of bricks and mortar businesses. If you're in hospitality, it really sucked, unless you were a baker, apparently, because they were allowed to stay open. But for us, for e-com, it was huge, and it really sort of boosted our sales. And we were at the right place at the right time in that sense. We had a great sustainable product that was made for e-com. We were advertising digitally. Everything got locked down, and that really propelled our growth.
But I would imagine manufacturing business, I've got some friends who work in manufacturing. It's tough. Like, it's big capex. You've got a sustainable products. You're going to have to do R&D, I would imagine. What was that journey like before?
It is. And look, technically we don't manufacture. We've started adding some of that to our sort of sphere, and it's custom print really that we started doing. So we've got partners all around the world, and more recently Australia, and that's really been our focus, I think, since the raise.
Actual manufacturers?
Yeah, so like most of our, I think it's probably 65 to 70% of our product is actually made in Australia, and we're now printing on some of that product in our own warehouse and adding that's our manufacturing process. In that sense, we do print stickers and things like that, cardboard boxes, some of our padded mailers, those sort of things. So yeah, so we're not technically a manufacturer, but we did sort of have a lot of those challenges. Supply chain logistics was a nightmare during the COVID period, all those sort of things.
So your value add then is what? So you take a cardboard box from Visi or whoever you're buying it from. What are you doing in the middle to then on sell to let's say me, I'm a local vineyard down in the Yarra?
Look, so I guess the main thing for us was to make sure that we had a box that was, we knew how it was produced. We knew the recycled content. A lot of the boxes out there, white ones that apparently are, advertised as recycled content are up to 70% maximum. So for us, it was really, really key. We make a box that was the highest recycled content in Australia, and then we advertised that fact, but not very minimal print on the box. It's really more about the customer and the product benefits, so that when the customer receives that, it's championing the brand that sent it, not us as a company, because that's what it's all about. So that's our standard sort of off-the-shelf mailing box or eco-mailer or product like that. And now we've started adding value with custom print. So that's where we take a mailing box that's, the highest recycled content in Australia, plain mailing box, print on it digitally, really small runs. So we can start at 100 pieces, which is, very rare because we're using digital print. Don't have to make any templates. Set up process is much easier. So we've taken that across some other products now, which is our padded mailer, which we also make in Australia. And a new one that's going to be released actually today, right at this time. The email's going out. It's called a rigid mailer. So it's a hard, flexible, expandable mailer, which
virtual exclusive.
It is actually just right now.
What is that?
The email's going out right now. I believe the team's on it. The campaign email's going out.
Okay, well, thanks very much. This is good. So tell us, 2022, you've done the campaign. What was it like, actually? Was there any misconceptions you had in doing it?
Look, I think we knew it was going to be a huge undertaking. I don't think the phone call part of it and the interaction with all the investors, I think I underestimated how sort of important that was and how much you had to do with that. Because, my aim was to speak to 300, 400, 500 investors or potential investors. That's a lot of work when you're jumping on the phones and you're doing that personally. And then the conversations that sort of you do have are great. You learn a lot about what people want, about your own business. And that was probably the one thing that I didn't expect. Most important thing that I didn't expect,
We had Eugene from the Sneaker Laundry come on when we last
I've met Eugene. Lovely guy.
Great guy. He was talking about, he locked himself into a hotel room for 3 weeks or something like that, and he just hit the phones. To his huge credit in terms of, and I think that's probably one of the misconceptions people have coming into a crowdsource funding raise. The tricky thing often about that is you're speaking to someone who's going to give you $250 and you're on the next phone call, you're speaking to someone who's going to give you 250 grand.
Yes.
And often they have similar questions, and sometimes the guy or the girl who's got $250 is grilling you more than the person who's got 250 grand sometimes. So is that your experience, or what was that like?
Look, it can be, and the other thing I think to remember, like with sales, that $250 person could end up being a $10,000 person, or vice versa. You really don't know till you speak to somebody and you sort of gauge their interest and see where they're at, because you do have some of those people that they're like, wow, this was an amazing conversation. I love what you're doing. I love how passionate you are. We don't want to invest more. Some people don't answer the phone, and then we'll give you $10,000 as well. So it's a real mix of people.
Yeah, right. When you were doing the race, what was your key goals? What were you trying to achieve at the time, and what were you setting out to achieve?
So look, we knew we needed more capital to grow the business, and that was just because it's a stock intensive business. So we needed that. There was the initial idea that we were going to expand overseas. I would say that's probably the only thing that we didn't end up doing from our sort of launch, raise plans. Give me a second, I'll come back to that.
In terms of the US piece?
In terms of the US piece, yeah. So that's the only thing that we didn't do.
Well, it sounds like that's a massive undertaking, right? It sounds easy. I think a lot of businesses would run into this in terms of, I want to be a global business. My wife and I, we run a business ourselves, and we think about international expansion. And then you go, okay, well, it sounds right. Let's get into the US market. It's so big over there. We can make it, mozza. And then you think through, okay, practically, I'm trying to think. There was a group, the name will come back to me in a moment, out of the Gold Coast. He's just, he was talking about his business got acquired by a US company, and they set up an office over there. He's doing commuting over there on a regular basis. If you've got a family, if you've got all this stuff, like, it sounds great, but it's an undertaking. So do you want to touch on that?
Look, there's a million and one things, and I think for us it was definitely the economy. That was sort of a real factor, and you just realise very quickly that for a stock intensive business, that $1 million, while it's a lot of money in this market, it's a drop in the ocean in America, and to sort of focus on the market here and keep growing the business here was probably the most important. And I think for us, looking at where we're at now, it was the right decision, because it was a really tough year last year, and we had growth. I mean, we still grew 30% in revenue. So I think we probably wouldn't have had that if we tried to enter another market. We'd spread ourselves too thin. We would have really made it hard to grow here at the same rate. So look, that market is still there. It's still something that we'd love to attack. But you're 100% correct. Unless you've got a product that is light and that you can ship really easily globally.
Software.
Exactly. That's the perfect thing. It's very difficult to expand into a market like that. And there are a lot of complexities involved.
Yeah, for sure. And there's nuances, right, in terms of not trying to be everything everywhere all the time. So the Aussie market often kind of gets a bad rep because it's small, relatively speaking, to the US. How have you found it? Well, what's the potential here?
Yeah, so it's something I do think about, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I was looking at the business, and I'm like, but where we're at now, we can probably still grow, 3-4 times what we are. Okay. So there's lots of growth there, but there will come a point where it's like, unless you're looking at other markets and investing into different areas, whether that's R&D or new products, which we're constantly doing, that growth will probably be capped, because the market is what the market is here.
Okay, so you cashed up out of 2022. Yep. You were excited. You had close to $1 million in the bank. Yep. You now got, I think, 900 advocates.
Yes, 900 plus. Yep.
Or maybe investors hungry for a return, should we say? Of
course, yeah. And we have a moral obligation to them to provide them with a return, without a doubt.
So how does that? How do you handle the pressure of that? What was that? Was that? Were you expecting that? Was it like, what was that experience as you started to go, wow, I've got this money, now I've really got oh God, yeah. What was that experience like?
It was a whirlwind, and I think that we sort of thought the world would stop after the raise, and that sort of sped up, because from there you're like, okay, well, now we need to grow. So what does that look like? All right, let's go out and build the dream team, which was something we'd sort of planned to do with the money, and we knew that we wanted to build the best in-house marketing team for our digital marketing.
Cool.
And we did that. It was also a thing where you, as a business owner, need to learn to manage staff, at a different level. You've gone from having 2, 3, 4 staff to having 6, 7, 8. You suddenly realise, I don't have as much time to do the business stuff that I want to do. In fact, I seem to spend all my time managing other people.
Yeah.
And that's a change, and you need to change the way you approach things. Obviously, change the way you manage. We introduced ClickUp and systems, that OKRs and things like that are really important to sort of growing a team, stretch goals, all those sort of things.
Yep.
And it really changed sort of our business, and that was where we ended up. It was a crazy 6 months from there. That worked really well for us, and obviously the growth that we've sort of continued to have was propelled by that. So,
where are you now? Just out of interest, revenue. Just give us a picture about what is it? What's been the journey? Where's the business at?
Yeah, so if we're looking at 2023, not the financial year, but that full year, we pretty much did 2.5 in revenue, thereabouts.
Yep.
So that's a fair bit of growth from where we were. We also had our I guess we've always aimed to be profitable, especially last year. It was like, okay, things have to change. You can't always be aiming for growth. Profitability has to be key. Yep. So we had our first profitable quarter, which was really exciting, and then we had a really great January, which was profitable as well. So.
Cool.
I think, when the economy, has been like it has over the last year, and we believe that the next year's it's going to be still okay, but there's consumer sentiment isn't what it was.
Yeah.
People aren't spending in the same way, so you do need to be very careful. You do need to aim. You do need to switch gears. It's not about max growth. You need to have profitability because you need to sort of keep investing in stock and keep growing in that way, and that's the most important thing for us.
What's the most profitable products that you've got?
Look, it's very hard to say.
Okay.
Like it really is, because it really switches around. But I think what's the most profitable product?
And why does it switch around so much?
I'm trying to think how to answer it correctly or without giving too much away.
Oh, forgive me. Yeah. Well, product range, maybe the cardboard boxes in general, something like that.
Yeah, look, I would say that boxes, eco-mailers, printers, DIY eco-labels, things like that are sort of core to the range. Hex wrap.
Yep.
It's pretty even, to be honest, between 6, 7, 8 different products in our range, which is quite important because initially we were a one product store. We just had an eco-mailer.
Got you.
So growing that range and sort of having profitability on other products was a key for our growth last year.
Because I was going to say, if you've got, because if you're white, let's say, and I'd be interested on, let me just pause for a second. So that piece around the defensibility in a challenging economy, you're going to see variations. Maybe people don't spend so much on wine or high-end sneakers, to quote Eugene. Maybe that changes, and maybe you shift from buying new sneakers to actually going to the sneaker laundry and washing them instead. So that kind of piece. What have the trends have you seen in terms of, because you're an interesting middle player, right?
We are, and we're providing a product that technically is slightly more expensive than its non-sustainable opposition or non-sustainable version. So you're right in that sense. It is something that we did have to deal with.
So what have you seen? What products are selling more or less? What's been the kind of biggest jumps in terms of shift packaging change?
It's interesting because I did think just generally that sustainability would be something that people would not care about as much because of the price point. And it's not that our products are a whole lot more expensive. It's a little bit more expensive, but that really hasn't changed in the sense that customers who have used our products or generally are interested in sustainable products, we're lucky in this country. It's consumer driven. The consumers want they hate receiving plastic. I mean, you've probably had it before. It's like, what do I do with it? Where does this go?
Yeah.
And all this bubble wrap or other things. So we're lucky that it's consumer driven. I haven't noticed. I did expect there to be a big drop last year, and I think from a number of reasons, including obviously our marketing, we didn't have that drop. We also introduced some really sort of new products which helped grow that range.
Right.
So that's the padded mailers, DIYs, and different colours of these stickers and eco labels that we make here. So that was really, really important to sort of keeping moving.
Cool. The B2B piece, what's your customer acquisition play? Like, is it just a group, a handful of people?
It's strange in the sense because we sit at a strange intersect. We're technically B2B, but we operate in a largely B2C.
You mentioned consumers driving demand, right?
Format, right? So it's this weird sort of thing. For us, that we are a B2B business. You see that in our wholesale pricing. It's stacked to get cheaper. The volume that you buy, but we do operate in sort of B2C channels. We're operating on Facebook. We're operating on Instagram. We're digital marketing. So it is this strange sort of this market that we sort of play in both, I guess.
Yeah. Is there like a sentiment? I think Humanitics, which is a really interesting business in terms of providing a for-purpose platform, but and so that's a very binary choice, right? Do you want to go Eventbrite or do you want to go Humanitics?
Yep.
Beautiful kind of direct switch you can do. Is it this kind of same thing? Are you finding there's like a bit of a wave of that, like where thank you as an example in terms of you're going to buy soap anyway, why don't you just buy thank you, which ends poverty? Like it's.
I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it and you see a purpose-driven business, and that was always our aim, and I always said, I don't want to just start a business for the sake of starting a business, and sell stuff just for the sake of selling it, because inevitably that's what we all do.
You can do that, yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. Personally, I think, in this country it is. Most people say, I'll grab that one, because we all want to do good, right? And that's where the Heaps Good name comes in that sense. We all want to do the right thing for the planet.
Yeah.
It's usually because it's harder for us or because we're lazy or whatever else that we don't do it. So no, I definitely think so. And that's definitely one of our value props and probably the main way to look at it.
And is that where you see that growth, you said 3 to 4x, yeah?
Yeah, total market. Yeah, I believe from where we are that could be the potential sort of maxing out unless you sort of look at other avenues. Yeah, that's about right.
How do you build a defensible moat in this space? Like, is it possible?
It's been brand.
Okay.
It's been brand driven and product driven. So I've always been, I mean, that's my bread and butter is product, finding product and I guess also putting together a product suite that makes sense, that is streamlined, because the paradox of choice is a real thing in today's market. So a really streamlined product suite that makes sense. I don't need, customers don't need 45 different bags. They need one eco-mailer, they need one pattern mailer, and we make sure that those products are the best of, their kind. So we've got a pattern mailer, that's the best pattern mailer. It's made in Australia, it's sustainable. Vice versa on the other products. So I think that's always been key. So largely product driven in that sense.
Okay, interesting. The US piece, let's talk about that again. So you cashed up, excited. Your global expansion sounds riveting, right? Let's go tackle the US beast. How far down the road did you get until you started realising?
We actually got pretty far. And it's something that we keep circling back to all the time, because we do have an intention one way or other to sort of expand globally. We probably were very close, and then the market conditions really changed, and we also realised, well, look, we want to buy, we want to do custom printing, so you need to buy a machine to do that. That's an expensive investment. We want to grow here. We need to hold 3-4 times the amount of stock that we're currently holding to do that. And we sort of weighed it all up and we thought, we can do this, but it's going to be, it's going to harm the Australian business and the potential growth of the Australian business. And that's where we sort of pulled back and said, okay, let's focus our efforts here. Let's double down on what we're doing. We know it's going to be a tough year. It's not the year to expand into another market. So, that can happen again in the future, and we'll sort of look at that each month and each year. It's constantly something we're thinking about.
And is it US, or is there like a smaller, more natural market like a UK who might be, or the Netherlands who are eco?
Yeah, explored both of those even as well. I think UK would make sense language-wise, and market size. Yep. Obviously, once you start going into the rest of Europe, language becomes a factor, and you need to start thinking about those sort of things. Probably easy with ChatGPT now in a lot of ways. With copy.
Yeah, probably easier than ever.
Yeah, much easier. But it was still always America in our minds, because I always felt that there was nothing like what we were doing there, and the market was ready for it.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. So when's that back on the timeline then? Can we push you for an answer there?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of making Heaps Good here extremely profitable. So the profits from Heaps Good in Australia can drive any international growth, rather than trying to do it, any other way. And I think that's sort of become our goal. And I think looking at the way we're going, that could be a year, it could be 2 years. And without necessarily having to go back to the pool, although that's something we definitely might do. It could be Birchal Take 2, which is something we're always thinking about as well. Yeah. But that's the strategy now. So that profit will drive any international growth if we decide to go for it.
And your business, just to touch on your customer, like talk to me. I would imagine you would have some big whales in there who and they probably do the Pareto principle, that 20% of your customer base, maybe 10%, do 90% of the business. Is that is that the deal?
Look, definitely is. It's really interesting for us. We've got all these, like you would say, large clients. We've got a huge amount of small to medium clients, and we also in this space where, and for us, that's the greatest thing. If these small to medium businesses can become large businesses, which is what we're finding over the last 3 years. So if we can help them, obviously with providing them with great packaging, but whatever else it is, that's sort of key for us. So a lot of those clients that probably were small to medium clients are now becoming large fish, and I think holding on to them and making sure that relationship is solid, and we're providing them with everything that they need is key to our growth in the future as well.
Can you talk about some of your customers? Or do you
in specific terms, I can talk about things.
Well, maybe who they are, like who are some of the big end of the town who are like you've been really surprised, or because there's a big push right at the moment. Superannuation firms are really trying to green supply chains. You see, we got our shopping from Coles delivered. Now it's in paper bags. Used to be plastic. So there's a general, I don't know if there's a general shift towards this space, or there's certainly consumer sentiment, or maybe unsustainable is less palatable than it was.
Definitely.
We should say. So, can you just talk about who are maybe some of the biggest surprises you see kind of pop into your DMs, or, make inquiries to kind of go down this route?
I mean, we've had inquiries from, general parents go to Australia Post and tendered for them.
Cool.
And usually with some of these large companies, especially with companies like Australia Post, they're not prepared to go down the compostable route. They're looking at plastic alternatives.
Right.
It's probably similar with some of the other the larger ones like Iconic and things like that.
Is it a durability piece they're thinking about?
It's not durability, because the compostable ones are just as durable. It might be shelf life that's a factor.
Right.
And also price.
Right.
Price is what it really comes down to, and that's probably the major factor there. So that's part and parcel of sort of the market that we're in, and you do have to expect that. But yeah, we do have companies like Bed Threads and Threadheads, just to throw out a couple with sound that rather similar, who are clients and larger clients that sort of have been working with us for a long time.
Awesome. Okay, amazing. Looking forward, you've talked about overseas expansion. You've got this new product which just come out.
The rigid mailer, yes.
The rigid mailer. For those like myself who have no idea what a rigid mailer,
which sounds the rigid dig mailer.
What is that? What is a rigid mailer?
So if you look at our product suite now, we've got an eco mailer, which is a soft compostable mailer, which is akin to a plastic mailer, and that's the substitute for that, or that's the comparison. We've now got a padded mailer, which is an alternative to a bubble mailer, which everybody's received. That's not made from plastic; it's made from recycled paper, and it's also made in Australia. So actually made right here in Melbourne.
That's cool.
So
wow.
That's one of the and we don't have, and we never had. We never had a product that was a mailer that was hard, in the sense that it was rigid. That's why we call it a rigid mailer. There's no flex.
What do you ship in a rigid mailer?
So if you had
a book?
Documents, books, anything that's probably not right for a box, it goes into the rigid mailer. The beauty about this rigid mailer is that it has gussets, so that it can also almost expand into a box. So really great for books, great edge protection. Just another product to add to the suite that sort of fits a spot that customers were looking for, and something that they needed. So.
And is there anything more in the pipeline in terms of product wise?
Always stuff in the pipeline.
Okay.
Like constantly. I think for us, look, for me, that's what I love. I love new product, and I love researching new product and finding new things that our customers want and need. So there are lots of things in the works. There'll be probably 3 or 4 more launches this year, I hope.
Oh, cool. Can you talk about any of those?
There'll be a lot in the custom sphere. So I think you'll see a couple in that custom area, which is a big area that we've grown in the last couple of years with that machinery we bought, which wouldn't have been possible without the raise, that's for sure.
And this gives you a chance to go deeper, I imagine, with your existing customer base, or it opens up broader?
Both. Yeah, 100%. Okay. So definitely deep with our existing customer base and providing them with really tailored custom options, which is something that some customers are really, really interested in doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's an added cost, but having such short print runs and being able to cater for these smaller clients isn't sort of a market that had been catered for before. So that was where it was really, really good for us and really good for our clients. And then on the other side, yeah, you're 100% correct. There's lots of clients who are larger who didn't think that you could print on a padded mailer, or certainly you couldn't print on an Australian-made padded mailer because it didn't exist. That was a sustainable product.
Yeah. Same
with the boxes. So now they're looking at that and they're like, oh, this is great. We can do that. We can switch our designs around without having to pay huge plate fees or anything like that, because we've got a promotion we want to run. So there's a lot of flexibility for them.
Okay, so it could just be the Easter bunny sale or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you've got short runs, you want to change things. It's very easy to do.
That's very, very cool. The big players in this space, I'm thinking about like Vistaprint, right? Melbourne-based, or I think they're
huge players.
Yeah.
Huge.
How do they think about this?
They provide an everything approach.
Yeah.
And that's in the sense that they provide all of these products, but they're not really tailored. They're not going to walk you through that process. I mean, for us, we've got customer service, and it has always been huge for us. So we will definitely help, the customers. We'll send them a proof. We'll send them a print. We'll walk them through that process.
Right.
You're actually speaking to a real person. You definitely don't get that with Vistaprint. It's a clean system. I would say sustainability and quality are not necessarily top of their minds, where that's really our focus.
Yeah.
So that's where we differentiate ourselves. But probably stay away from a lot of things they do because it is such a huge market that they own and they're very hard to compete with.
Yeah, okay. I can imagine that would be very tricky. Like in any way, right? Every industry's got it.
100%.
And the money's in the niche.
It is. And look, at the same time, it's the system that they've set up around that. It's obviously wonderful machinery, but fairly automated. So they've sort of really set all of that up. They're pretty worldwide, aren't they? They're huge.
Oh, I've been so impressed. Like they can print me a T-shirt and just one of them, and they can have it by my doorstep next week. It's
crazy.
It's wild. Yeah. And it's this episode is not sponsored by Vistaprint, but it's like in terms of their experience, I think that's very cool. But I think you're right. It's certainly turned up in plastic. It's clearly they're not that. They're going after a different market to yourself.
Yeah, right? So even their card and their paper, like they have a recycled version, but they don't have a fully recycled version. So things like that, obviously, it's not. And look, they're slowly moving that way as well. So the market sort of shrinks a little bit. But
okay,
I think it's a different offering for us on our website because it's also you come and do all the shopping in the one place. We're a one-stop e-commerce shop in that sense that you don't need to go here and here and here, and you get everything in one at once. Shipping's cheap. It's also easier. They trust us. They know sort of what we're offering is quality and sustainable. So that's probably the main differences.
Working with your brother.
Yes.
Interesting one. Family members are a tricky one sometimes.
It can be.
How's that journey been for you?
It turned out to be really good.
Cool.
We found out, I guess, a lot about each other. And look, COVID was that period where Melbourne, right, 2.5 years, we didn't see anybody else, and he and I worked on the business. So I think a lot of people, struggled with what to do during that time, and we're really fortunate that we just threw all our energy into the business and spent a lot of time working together. Look, there's always battles and fights and arguments, but in the end that although they might sound like they're personal at times, they're not intended to be personal, and you usually sort of revert back, hey, we have the business best interest in heart. Yeah. So let's sort of refocus on that. But generally, it's been really good, which I know can be very difficult for a lot of people as a relationship sort of thing.
Yeah, I work with my wife, and probably the most common question we get is, "Ooh, what's it like working with your wife?"
And how is it?
Tricky.
Okay.
The best answer I've come up with thus far is it's everything. It's really amazing.
Yep.
And it's also really annoying.
Yep.
And it's really beautiful, and it's really frustrating. Like it's literally, there isn't one experience of, it's all just great. It's really not, because, we've got 2 young kids, and so we're navigating that piece as well.
Of course.
For you, how do you juggle those things?
Yeah, so no kids, so that makes it easier.
Yeah,
I think it would be a struggle. I look at all my friends that have children, and sort of investing that much time in the business is really difficult. I don't know how they do it, like yourself. I really admire the lack of sleep and the intestinal fortitude to keep punching on through, because I really like it.
3 coffees deep, it's okay, I'm here.
It's amazing. Yeah. So I don't know how much I could have achieved. But then again, you have a wonderful partner and they help, so you hope that's the way things are.
Yeah, well, that's the theory anyway. So is that important for you in terms of priority? Like, how do you? Business is important. It's certainly, but it's not everything in life.
No, and I'm getting older, so it's something that I need to start focusing on a little bit more. The business is going really well, and want to keep obviously always growing that, but I can divert couple of % of attention maybe away.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, that's
not too much.
If anyone's listening, get in contact. So
start a dating show, dating podcast.
That's it.
Could be a new thing for you guys.
So Adam, welcome. Virtual dating. Well, I'll pitch it to Matt, see what he reckons.
It's a little bit off topic, but
maybe, you never know. Also, well, I think it's been a really fascinating conversation. At Birchal, we're finding a lot of companies returning in terms of the capital markets are an interesting space at this pace. There's certainly a lot to be said around raising capital on a platform like ours, which is really cool. Your experience, I really appreciate your frankness and openness. It's certainly no picnic. We're not trying to pretend it's easy.
Definitely not, but we wouldn't be where we are today. So it's you have to sort of go through those hard yards. And I mean, looking back at it now as well, it's like, I can't believe we actually did that. Like, what an amazing feat. So that you do look back with a lot of pride at sort of everything that you did and the video that you put together, and it was a great experience.
Just to round out that bit, the 900 plus investors that
Yes.
came on board. What's that been like navigating that, navigating expectations and changing course when it goes to the US? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, look, you do get some random emails from people asking about, what can I do with my shares and those sort of things. Cake as a system has been very helpful for us to sort of manage our investors, and that's how we've done it. Communicating with them is something that I've really tried to do because I've been, I guess, part of some other Birchal companies that haven't necessarily communicated as well, and I've been invested in some that have really communicated well. So I do try to make sure I communicate with all the investors at least twice a year, and that's a director's email and then the standard annual email with all of the sort of, the books and all those sort of things.
Okay.
And we upload all those documents to Cake so that they're visible for all the investors. So that's how we've sort of handled it. Yep. It hasn't been too difficult in that sense because it is something that you worry about. But I guess, there's systems there to manage it that make it a little bit easier.
Any surprises, kind of like cool things where an investor came on board and they turned out to be a customer, or they provide a useful intro, anything like that?
Look, the one thing that was great for us is we had a lot of customers who invested. So definitely got those ones.
Cool. Cements them in?
Yeah, that definitely cements them in that sense. They're part of sort of the family now. We provide them with, a better tier discount sort of ongoing for life. So they're really part of the Heaps Good, family from there.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. So Stuff, who's a friend of mine, Hunter Johnson, he came on and they pushed products. If you put extra capital in, then you get, shampoo.
Yep.
Seems silly. I was like, it's such a novel idea. I don't know if you did that with what you were doing.
Not give them products in that sense, but you're 100% right, because what happens is, especially with a consumer product like that, you try it, you use it, you're already invested in the company. If you like it, you're going to use it, then you're going to spruik it to your friends. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was really powerful. Like, it was made, if they're asking for an extra $500 for some shampoo, which is pricey shampoo, but the idea, the intent behind it to turn your investors into an advocate, I thought was really cool. I think, I think it's great that it sounds like it hasn't been too much of a headache, but I can appreciate it.
It hasn't been. It might be. Look, it hasn't. You always have some curly questions from investors. People asking, how can you sell shares and things like that, but you don't get too many sort of people asking curly questions. So generally, we've been able to handle it all.
Awesome. Well, you can make this podcast the third communication to your investors.
Yes, there you go.
An update. And we're trying to do a much better job on that piece in terms of letting the investors and the amazing people we work with reconnect with the founders, because the founders...
Yeah, I think it's great.
I think they can get a head down, focus on actually building a business, that piece can be often neglected. Not intentionally, but it can be...
100%. Look, you hope that's exactly what it is. Heads down, bums up, and focusing on
growing
the business.
Yeah.
And look, in most cases, that's what it is. But it's I'm sure for investors and for people who look at Birchal as well, it's great to hear how businesses are going and where they're at.
Yeah, awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Congratulations on the amazing work. Like, it's not easy. The business environment is not easy. That. Economy is not easy. Raising capital is not easy. You've done a blistering job. You're still smiling, which is great.
Thank you, mate. No, that's good. Appreciate that. Likewise with the 2 kids and working with the wife. So kudos.
Yeah, thanks. Well, it takes something, doesn't it? So, Adam, thank you so much for joining us on the Birchal Podcast, and look forward to following your journey.
Thank you, mate. It was a pleasure.